What's up, everybody? Welcome to a special afternoon edition of the CanesInSight podcast. It's 5:17 p.m., so you guys listening might be getting off work, getting home, just tuning in. Appreciate everybody joining us here on CanesInSight. Look, we got the padded practice tonight, so a lot to observe there. But I wanted to do this one because we have coach interviews here, press conferences, Cristobal, Heatherman, Dawson, in-depth answering questions, spent a lot of time. There's interesting nuggets there. There's going to be a lot of coach speak, but there's certain things that kind of cut through that I wanted to focus on, answer questions. We got the Canes Connection Zoom call at 6 for members, where we'll get a little more detail on what's happening at practice for those who are contributing to the NIL, canesconnection.com/CIS, promo code CIS50. But again, I just want to answer questions and kind of just go over what my instincts and my reaction from this press conference, and just talk Canes, man. I can't get enough. I got to get a Zoom and then back to practice. But it was Canes football 24/7 here on CanesInSight. Like and subscribe if you're new to the show. You will get a lot of Canes content coming your way at all times. We're at Duffy's this morning, which is an awesome event. Really excited about our partnership with Duffy's. It's going to be a lot of fun working with those dudes. But here, let's just get to there you go. Appreciate you, Ivan. Welcome to the chat. Just a few kind of big picture takeaways. Again, a lot of coach speak, right? But certain things that caught my attention from those discussions. I thought really Heatherman was the one that was most candid of all those guys. And Heatherman, he talked a lot about not just first and second down with these linebackers, but third down. And the implication, he's talking about Torrey, talking about Kamal Bond, the two transfers. But I think the implication was what we talked about on this show. Expect to see the linebackers rushing the passer. That's something that Heatherman did at Minnesota. That is something that is important to him. He's also very candid and put a lot of emphasis on the importance of takeaways. So we did a video, which I think it's on the channel as an independent segment. It was part of our morning show where we talked about, who's going to take the ball away for this team. We were like I think we were 80th in turnovers this year, takeaways. How can we get to the next level and become more of a Miami unit that takes the ball away? Minnesota was better than Miami, but not significantly better. They're like in the 50s. So how can Miami become that elite turnover causing unit, right? That's what we want to see. So in this case, Heatherman went up there and he was talking about just constant emphasis of stripping the ball, getting the ball away. Somebody asked about red zone defense. He says, best thing is don't let them get there. Number 2, take the ball away when they get there. So he was very, very emphatic about the need to create turnovers. Like I said, Minnesota was better than Miami last year at that, but it wasn't like Minnesota's strength, even though they were a top 10 defense. I get the sense that given the athletes that he has here, he thinks it could be something Miami does better. I mentioned Bryce Fitzgerald in that earlier show. Heatherman pointed him out. He said Fitz is making big plays every single day of practice. That's what I'm seeing as well. Everybody's seeing this there. So that was kind of interesting to hear. Talked a lot about the defensive line, the defensive tackles. Cristobal, one guy he mentioned was Dalen Russell, as someone who's remade his body, getting a chance to play and potentially knock on the door of a rotation spot. We'll see, but that was interesting what Cristobal just specifically mentioning his Columbus buddy there, Dalen Russell, as really reshaping his body, because he was someone coming out of high school, was a really productive, good player, but not the most physically developed player, right? That was going to be a 5-star, 4-star player. It was a 3-star, but had offers from the likes of Louisville, Nebraska, that caliber of program because of the size. Now you're seeing the size come on. Always been a good football player. So he's trending in the right direction to be a rotational player, helps us. Cristobal also mentioned Micah Newton, Dante Simpson, 2 true freshman defensive tackles. Just talking about how they dealt with injuries. Micah Newton, I think more than Simpson. Newton was hurt in spring. I didn't see him practice at all in spring. And not only rehab, but did it in a way that he was really, really diligent. Both of them were really, really diligent in getting on the field fast. Cristobal says, some guys, they go in the training room, they never leave because they're not really fighting to get out of it. Where some guys, you put them in there and they're just dying to get back on the field and they'll do everything it takes to get out of there. And he put these 2 defensive tackles into that category. Some other guys that got sort of specific mentions. Dylan Day, man. Dylan Day, the backup safety, true sophomore, played a lot as a true freshman last year on special teams, was our best special teams player from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Guidry guy. Got to follow Guidry around, really. And then now ultimately in this class and staying as Guidry leaves. But he's somebody who was mentioned by Heatherman repeatedly as a guy that's always trying to strip the ball, take it away. I think Cristobal may have mentioned him as well. But there was several references to Dylan Day and what he's done on the field as just like that aggressive, turnover-minded player with a lot of ability. We saw him on special teams, his ability to run and strike. Receiver, I mean, you could tell that they know that everybody's talking about Malachi Tony, so they were kind of like, hey, hold the brakes. These other guys are making plays too. Mentioned the 2 other freshmen, mentioned Ray, Tony Johnson as well. So that was interesting. Hearing Dawson talk about Carson Beck, you could tell he's a big fan of his arm talent, his overall IQ. That matches what the Pete Nakos story said. Pete Nakos talked to a source close to Shannon Dawson. This is on threes, Peter Nakos. And the source close to Shannon Dawson basically said Shannon thinks he's got another number 1 pick after having Ward last year. So that would be a great outcome. Back-to-back number 1 picks, either overall or first round. Either way, that's cooking. And that'll be easy to sell to future transfers, to future quarterbacks, to whoever, right? When you've done it that much, it becomes like a Lincoln Riley thing where, all right, now this is what we do. We're the place to go if you want to rehab your career in this way. Other takeaways that I had, Marty Brown, right, came up a lot. Just his strength, his ability to break tackles, what he does in that part of the game, that just smash mouth dimension that he brings. There were comments about, basically the tight ends being versatile. That was somewhat coach speak, but it's true that these guys are not, there's no pure blocking tight end and pure receiving tight end. These guys can do a little bit of both. They're all weight room guys. They're all guys that pride themselves on receiving as well. So, those are all very good attributes at tight end. I like that room. I don't know if we have an Elijah Arroyo there, but I do like that room. Xavier Lucas got a specific mention from Heatherman in response to a question about him, but basically that he's working hard. He's somebody that's very detail oriented, obviously has the size and speed at, over 200 pounds, 10.49 in the 100 meters. But the fact that he's trying to correct it and be a good player technically, on top of just being the size speed freak, that was what came across in those comments. He said 5 corners that they feel good about. I don't know if that's outside and inside. I think that's just outside. If you look outside, that's OJ Frederic, Damari Brown, Xavier Lucas, Ethan O'Connor, and Charles Brantley, all guys that at least they've proven a little bit. Damari's been a little more hurt than the other guys. But I'd say those 5 are probably the 5 outside corners, and then inside Keontae Scott and what he can do. Heatherman did give a shout out to Chris Ewald, Jabori Antoine, as young guys who are really starting to pick it up and learn. That maybe aren't in that group of guys that he can already trust and knows how to play, but the guys that are pushing a play. The offensive line, that came up there with Shannon Dawson, and he said, listen, he really made a point. When you have these good offensive linemen, this level of offensive linemen, it makes offensive football so much easier. These guys are worth their weight in gold. And he was very quick to say, it's not just the 5 we got, it's 8, maybe 9, more than that. So he obviously feels confident in the offensive line. That's why I think he's not exactly going to be jumping from job to job. I mean, if you're Shannon Dawson, you say, I got great offensive linemen in front of me. Why am I going to leave maybe a head coach somewhere and they haven't recruited offensive line, right? And then you're sitting there and you're calling the greatest plays in the world, but you're not blocking anybody and you can't execute your plays. Whereas when you have a great offensive line like this, it makes calling plays a lot easier. And Dawson made that pretty clear in his comments, mentioned that the offensive line sort of sets the tone for the room and that other offensive players follow the example of those guys becoming more physical as they develop into an offense. The Cristobal talked a little bit about just kind of the usual Cristobal stuff, right? Alphas, battling, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, again, Cristobal, he admitted when he was in his presser, he's like, listen, I'm not going to tell you much before Notre Dame, right? I'm sorry. I'm not going to be that candid. I'm going to be pretty vague. So, I mean, he knows, he's not really saying anything. But you could tell he's happy with the roster. He said this 2 deep is actually a real 2 deep. It's come a long way from when we started. He says, I want a first round pick at every position. So until you have that, you're not really satisfied as a coach. But I think we're getting closer to where we need to be with a legitimate 2 deep. So that was interesting. A lot of comments here. Got snap. It's Mikey live from Montana. Smash the like. It's finally made alive with the time change. That's why I do these different times, just kind of connect with people that aren't always in the chat. Steve Jones says, I was ecstatic with the 2024 receiver class, still patiently waiting. Appreciate your comments on the pod. So with the 24 receiver class, Nikar, JoJo Trader, Chance Robinson, all have had really nice moments about putting it together. They got athletic ability. They can do things. It's just about putting it together consistently. They've all kind of dealt with nagging injuries at some point or another. Chance Robinson probably more than most. But I will say this, and we'll see how it all looks tonight. It's going to be important practice tonight, important practice tomorrow. Sunday's a scrimmage. Chance Robinson. It's like a home stretch of practices, by the way. Like this is going to be, Cristobal said basically by Sunday, we're going to know everything we need to know. So even though camp's not over on Sunday, it's kind of like by Sunday scrimmage, that second scrimmage, you're going to know basically where guys fit. And then it's starting to get into that process of preparing to play Notre Dame on the 31st, which is a whole different animal. That's not camp. Kermit Russell just got the notification. D in the house. Great interviews with Dawson and Heatherman today. Man, Corey's one intense dude. Definitely intense. Appreciate support, Kermit, as always. But you know what? I thought he came off like a kind of cool guy. You know, he seemed personable. He seemed to like Miami. I think it's just his appearance that looked very intense. He's bald. He's got the beard. You know, he's a tall, strong dude. I think he just has that kind of physical appearance, but it's not necessarily, you know, like he's not a jerk. He wasn't being a jerk to the reporters. He was answering questions. Yeah, honestly, I was surprised by how much Heatherman talked. Not that he said anything bad that's going to get the team in trouble or anything like that, but he was pretty forthcoming. He wasn't being cagey at all. He was answering. He was protecting the team at all times, but he was answering questions pretty directly and gave as much detail as he could. So he does look intense, but I thought when I watched him, like, man, this guy seems like a nice guy. I don't know him like that. I've never really talked to him, but just seeing that and seeing their practice, he's not out there like just yelling at guys being negative or anything like that. He's more a teacher, right? Just his appearance looks like a drill sergeant. But yeah, those were great interviews. And Heatherman, like I said, was pretty forthcoming with more so than any of the other guys. You could tell at one point that they're trying to get Dawson to talk about Malachi Tony, and he's like, yeah, you know, let's talk about these other guys, because he knew. But with Chance Robinson, I want to get back to him on the 24 class. He is really making a lot of plays since he came back from injury, and I have not seen him a lot, so I didn't really have a lot to base it on. But he's making some plays. He's running routes. He's catching the football. You know, he's doing a nice job overall with his game coming back from injury. He's always been a big body. Always been someone who worked hard. So he'll say the mic's a little off. Yeah, let me know how the connection is. I'm actually at my parents' house. I'm in the room that I used to be on grassy.com back in like 1999, looking up information on, you know, DJ Williams was going to come to Miami as a high school kid. So I don't know the connection here. I'm actually getting ready to go to practice here in a little bit. So I just wanted to just cut a quick live. So if the connection's off, let me know. But I can't help it, man. I got to plug in at all times. What else was interesting? You know, Shannon there was a question about Judd. Shannon answered it, mentioned that Judd's made a lot of progress. Shout out to Travis Thomas. I know he's a big fan of Judd Anderson. But I think that the real interesting answer from Dawson was when he focused on Emory. I forgot what the question was. It wasn't about Emory per se, but he kind of directed it towards Emory. And I think that reflects what he really thinks, that Emory is playing very, very good football. He's worked on his body. He's gotten quicker. He's just a little more advanced maybe than he was in the past from an athletic standpoint, from just a overall movement, ease of movement. He's very confident. He's talking a lot, not in a negative way, but he's just he's more extroverted out there. And he's always been accurate, always been someone that was smart. He's been in this offense for 3 years, same offense for 3 years, because he's really one of the pure Dawson guys. So he knows this offense better than anybody probably. And I think that's all coming together. Am I saying he's making a huge leap? He's going to challenge Carson Beck? No, but he's going in the right direction, and you're happy to see hard work pay off for somebody like that who works hard and does everything right by the team. You know, gave his body that Florida State start a couple years ago, breaking his arm trying to run. So you want success for him, and I think he's trending in the right direction. You heard that with some of Dawson's comments. But overall, man, you could tell they're just kind of getting ready for this stretch run where practice today, practice tomorrow, scrimmage on Sunday. That's sort of like the rotations. If a guy like a Bryce Fitzgerald is going to break on the field, just to pick an example. If a guy like Josh Moore is going to break on the field. I'm talking about real meaningful snaps against Notre Dame or whoever. I think you'll see the next couple practices dictate that. So big time here. He was asking, is Francis Mauigoa the best player in the country? I hope so. You know, I think he's one of the best prospects and best players in the country for sure. Strong, super athletic, you know, great character. I think he's a lock to be a top 15 type pick, whether it's guard or tackle. He's been playing good tackle, so I don't know if there's any reason why you got to move him off tackle. But if someone says, hey, his arms are too short, I think he's a guard. I think he's worth the same caliber of pick at guard, top 15 pick. You've seen Booker for the Cowboys, Tyler Booker, other guys that you're basically drafting to be guards get drafted in that range, Peter Skoronowski. So I don't see why he wouldn't be in that conversation. I think unless he's hurt or something weird happens, he's a top 15 pick all day. So he's one of the best players in the country, fantastic prospect, and I don't know anyone else Miami would rather have at right tackle than Francis Malanoa. New King God saying rumors that Bell is the best tackle on the team. He's a heck of a talent. He's improved a lot. He's gotten stronger. So we got really, really good tackles. And that was one other thing that came out of the press conference is the battles between those tackles and Ruben Bain, Messidor, and guys like that. Kyle asking, will Emory be QB1 in 2026? I think there's a long way to go. It's just August 2025, but I just think Emory's going in the right direction. And that's what you want to see from a hardworking player. And the number 8, that's Slimming or something. I don't know, but he looks more athletic out there. Ryan Bofel saying, talking about, no, he's not the best player on the team. See Elijah Lofton per D. Yeah, when I say Elijah Lofton as player on the team, what I mean is he's the best overall football player. Like he can run routes, he can catch, he can block in line, he can collide and make blocks that way. If you put him on defense, he'd be a great defensive player, great linebacker. He does everything. So that's what I mean when I say he's the best overall football player. At their position, you can make an argument for Francis. You can make an argument for Ruben Bain. You can even make an argument for Carson Beck. I mentioned O.J. Frederick. That O.J. Frederick was potentially one of those kind of guys that could be the best player on the team in the ACC, whatever. He's extremely, extremely talented, and he's gotten better, which is what you want to see with a sophomore. You don't want that sophomore slump now that he's gotten some hype. Dr. Jones saying, several players saying OJ is the best player out there. I think Eric McLean said the same thing. I did that episode a week ago. I think I was actually talking to Eric McLean about that during practice. So obviously we see it a similar way. He's in that conversation. New King saying, they're saying Messidor's back to his size when he first got here and had 8 sacks. Yeah, he's 260 pounds. He looks great. He was a linebacker in high school. So even though he's played inside at both West Virginia and Miami, it's not like he's like a nose tackle body. He's a strong guy. He's got great leverage, but he's really more of an outside linebacker body type. So I think him playing there is more like that's his strengths fit that position that he's at now more so than where he was at last year. New King saying, after listening to D Money, I put money on Miami to win the national championship. I didn't say that. No, don't come at me with if that doesn't hit. But I think we got a good team, man. I think we got a chance. Josh saying, off topic, but get your Raekwon the Chef and Mobb Deep tickets. They're coming to Miami Beach in December. I mean, I live like walking distance from the Fillmore. That's like 2 blocks down from where I'm at. So I probably will. I saw Mobb Deep back when Prodigy was alive at the Fillmore. So that was an awesome show. Obviously, he's since passed away. So I don't know if Mobb Deep's really Mobb Deep anymore without Prodigy. That's kind of is a duo, and you're missing half of the duo. That's tough. But obviously that probably be a good show. I know he's got Havoc, he got Raekwon. Probably be a cool thing to do. And I love that venue, the Fillmore. So I might check it out. We'll see. On there, I'll holler at me, Josh. Kyle asking, over under 2.5 first round picks in 2026 draft based on what you've seen in camp. Ooh, that's a good spread. I think there'll be at least one. That I feel pretty good about. I think one of these, I think Malanoa, it'll be hard for him not to go. So that's your floor with one. Assuming nothing crazy, injury happens, whatever. Bain's going to have a chance. Trigger says he thinks Bain's going to go inside. Notre Dame won't be able to block him. I agree with the second part. Going inside, I mean, he can do it. You're going to see him move around, but he's leaned out, man. He's really focused on playing defensive end. He's been really working hard on his body. So I think defensive end for him with the ability to go inside, but I don't know if he's going to major there. NFL draft is going to be such an interesting case study because he's not the tallest guy. He's not running a 4.4, but he's somebody who's so powerful and has such a high motor and has had lower body strength. That's going to play in the NFL. Power plays in college and definitely plays in the NFL. And Ruben Bain's got incredible power. So I think that's going to give him a chance, but he's interesting because of the size. And Carson Beck, if he plays well, he'll be a first round pick. If he doesn't play well, he'll who knows? But I think he has a chance to be a first-round pick if he plays well. John Kennedy saying, Erica Badu and the Alchemist performing at the Fillmore on Tuesday. I'll check that out. It's pretty cool. I like Erica Badu. Dallas, Texas. Shout out to my boy Master. Trigger saying, Ruben's going to go insane, not inside. Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see him going insane. Cristobal mentioned the Ruben Baines camp specifically. That was something that he had mentioned in what he did. I like this question. You can God. Call it now. Will Miami have more first-round picks than Georgia? Yes. I'm going to say yes, and I'll tell you why. I don't see the obvious first-round picks on Georgia right now. They have some good offensive linemen that they develop, could be that. But again, like a Monroe Freeling, who we recruited, but that requires development from Stacey Searles. He's pretty bad at that. The receivers are good, but I don't know if they're first-round good. I think like a guy like Eric Singleton, that's going to be a transfer that goes first round. Branch, Noah Thomas, you have to really have huge years, and probably more Branch because of his speed. Noah's kind of slow. So I don't see those guys doing it. The tight ends are not that good. Like that good. I mean, they can get drafted, but they're not like that kind of guys. CJ Allen, the linebacker, is the one that I think has the best chance, but he plays a position that's traditionally devalued. I mean, Jihad Campbell looks like a Superman, and he went late to the Eagles despite having incredible traits just because that position. And he has pass rush. CJ Allen, more of a true inside linebacker. So if he's the one, and you go on the Miami side, you have three guys that could potentially go first round, maybe more if things go perfect. You know, it was like Barkel Bell has an All-America year or whatever, something like that. But certainly Bain, Beck, and Mountain are the ones you look at. They were invited to the combine last year as underclassmen, which means like there's only 30 guys that get drafted, so that's pretty telling. I don't know who got drafted by Georgia or invited by Georgia to the draft, I should say. But the only one I'm hearing buzz about like that is that CJ Allen guy. Guys can emerge as Georgia, but I don't know. It's not what it used to be when it comes to NFL talent. I do like Allen, man. He's a really, really good player, leader of that team, true linebacker, but that position doesn't go that high. So I'm betting Miami on that. Miami over Georgia first-round picks this year. Heel talking about we haven't had this defensive line talent since Joe Jackson, Garvin, Chad Thomas, all those guys. I agree. Golden recruited some good ones towards the end. Didn't really get to coach him. When he did coach him, he kind of wasted them with bad coordination. You bring in Manny Diaz, those guys came to life. We have a lot of those talents now. Could a guy like Corey Heatherman have the same impact that Manny had, where a defense goes basically from almost worst to first? I think we're 80th in scoring defense, go up to 12th or something like that. Other categories, there was even bigger jumps. So it happened that fast because you had talent and you had the coordinator that you needed. I think we have talent. I think we have the coordinator we need. We'll see if those guys can click when the real games start. But that's something to watch, man. Get your questions in real quick while I talk about my favorite place on the planet for Cuban food. Actually, close by right here in South Miami, about 2-minute drive down to Dayland Station for Islas Canarias Cuban Express, number one Cuban restaurant on the planet. Check out the menu. It's got 7 different types of croquetas, the sandwiches, empanadas, the fries, tostones, soups, you name it, coffee, Cuban coffee. You want real Cuban coffee like Zumardo drink right there. Islas Canarias is as authentic as it gets. These juices and shakes, this is the real Cuban stuff. Tons of sugar. Batido de mamey. That's one of my old favorites. Grigo. How Pete likes that. Mango. All kinds of different stuff. Get the desserts with the flan. Anything you want at Islas Canarias Cuban Express, the number one Cuban restaurant on this planet. There is no, forget Cuba. Best Cuban restaurant on the planet is right there. Islas Canarias Cuban Express. All right. What we got going on here? See some questions. What's up, Brandon? He says, when do we get season preview? I'll do it after camp. I mean, I could do it now, but I'd rather let camp play out so I can give you the absolute most authentic approach. NCG, any word to how Amari Wallace is doing in camp? Good. I mean, he's healthy. He's running around. That's, to me, the main thing. Got to get bigger. He's a smaller guy, but he's out there running around and making plays. He's an instinctive safety. He can tackle. He's someone I think if he sticks with the process, he's going to be a good player. Kyle says, I think Mara's a 2-year window to win the ACC to get to the playoff. Think about all the talent returning in 26. Lyle, Lofton, Tony, Moore, Scott, Blunt, Lightfoot, Wiley, OJ, Lucas, Poyser. Let's get through this one first. But yeah, man, I think certainly bring back a lot of talent. You've been recruiting a lot of good high school guys. That extends your window, assuming you can do a good job of retention, which Miami did this year. Shout out to Canes Connection. But I don't even know what's going on in 2 years, man. It's like, it's hard to say. I don't think the plan is to have a 2-year window. I think the plan is to have a 20-year window. Like Ohio State and Georgia, they don't have windows. They have programs. And I think we would like to be in that position. We don't have a window. We have an actual program. So we'll see on that. But yeah, 26 is looking good if we can keep those guys and they keep developing. Slug Bruce saying, I heard Dylan Day looking good. You think he can win the job? He's going to play. He'll play against Notre Dame, I think. Is he going to win the job like right now? I mean, he's going against guys that have played a lot. Zechariah Poyser was a freshman All-America. Jacoby Thomas played a lot of the SEC last year. Was going to start for Tennessee. So, I think it's hard to say he's going to start over those more experienced players right now, but he's going to play. And when you play, you got a chance. Kyle says we needed David Lake, Gabby, you, Peter, and you for a big preseason pod. Well, I don't know if they're allowed to do that. They got they got a pretty tight contract with 247. But yeah, me and David Lake do the preseason pod on group chats all the time. Great guy, and definitely knows his stuff. Sorry, gotta drink some water. Yeah, big fan of David Lake, man. He knows ball, and he makes a trek all the way across Alligator Alley to watch practice and to do the interviews and all the stuff he does, man. So shout out to him. Ryan Boflask, and our guy, the Bear Felica, is bullish on Beck winning the Heisman. Yes, again, he knows college football. Former producer of College Game Day, now the producer of Big Noon Sunday. Big Noon Kickoff. Not Sunday, Saturday. What am I doing out here? Big Noon Kickoff on Saturday. And he is hardcore Cane, went to Miami. Maybe we'll have him on Hurricane here as we get later in the year or later in the month. We get closer to game time. We do that big Hurricane special. It's like a 5-hour preseason deal that we do. Talk about preseason pod. Watch Hurricane last year. That was our preseason pod last year. We'll do it this year with Mike Ryan and a bunch of celebrity guests. Last year we had Bear, we had Kevin Clark, we had Sedano, who's awesome. We had Zaslow. I mean, a lot of guys came through that show. I think David Lake was on that show too. So maybe he is allowed to do it. Yeah, David Lake's allowed to do it. What am I even saying? He was on one of those shows when I was in Japan. So yeah, we'll get David Lake on. And Gabby, man, all those guys are great. NCG saying, how are the new defensive coaches gelling? Do you notice any difference from last year? I mean, it seems good. It's hard to say, right? Where I'm at, that's not like I could say something, but to act like I'm based on a lot is tough. I mean, I haven't heard anything negative on how they're gelling and how they're working. The team looks connected when I see it on the field, but it's one thing seeing it on a practice field. It's another seeing it against Notre Dame, and you have to tackle Jeremiah Love, and if you miss the tackle, he'll go 70. These are the, you have to communicating with a loud stadium, right? These are the things that you got to see kind of under fire. We didn't know we had a defensive issue really until week 6. I mean, we thought we were rolling until then, so it's hard to know. Steve Jones, over on Beck moving chains with his legs. He will. I don't know how much. I don't think it'll be that much different than Cam Ward, to be honest with you. It'll be a different way because Cam Ward, because he held on to the ball so much, he really would kind of just like hang around. If no one's there, all right, I'm running. Beck, I think, is going to be much more urgent with it. Like if he needs to, he's going to do it fast and decisively. And he's going to run hard. He puts his shoulder down. You saw it in Tennessee games, some other games he played at Georgia. But I think you're not going to see Beck like Cam Ward would literally just kind of just sit there. His feet were on the ground. Like he wasn't even on the balls of his feet, man. His feet were planted on the ground, just sitting there, knowing that if someone broke through, he's going to break the tackle, run around. And he just run around kind of looking. Oh, wow, no one's really coming to tackle me. I'll jog to a first down. Beck's not going to be casual like that because I don't think he has the luxury of just saying, hey, if someone gets by, I could just kind of beat them with quickness and strength and break the tackle. He's not that kind of mobile presence. But when there's green grass, I think he's just as fast, if not faster than Ward. And he's tough too. I mean, Ward was not like a guy that ran you over. Ward, you actually held my breath every time he ran because when he got tackled, he didn't really have the best contact balance. He kind of just fell to the ground. So even though he was strong, I was always nervous when Ward ran. Beck is a tough runner, man. He's not like just a straight line, like get knocked out kind of upright guy. He can put his shoulders down. He's got big legs. He's not what I call a running quarterback, but he's not awkward when he runs. I do think he's going to throw down. Bagging up saying Cam didn't always play on schedule. Cam often did not play on schedule, but that's why he was just so good at it. So it's like he could do all the on schedule stuff. He read defenses just as good as any on schedule quarterback. He had a quick release like any on schedule quarterback, super accurate. He just with Cameron, what they say, they're making everybody call him Cameron now. With Ward, his thing was he just knew that he was going to have a lot of time from his offensive line, had the lead offensive line last year, And he also knew that he could just make the first man miss. So I think because of that, he just had so much confidence. Like he was never nervous. Beck doesn't want to have to make anybody miss. That's not what he wants to do. But if there's green grass, he can run, and he can throw on the run as well. Giovanni Foster asking Damari Brown or Scott in the slot. I mean, Scott is a nickel corner, right? So that's what he plays. Damari more of an outside guy. He can play in the slot, but and you could see that. But I think Keontae Scott, this is a guy who's been a slot corner against the Alabamas of the world, the biggest games in college football, biggest stages. He's been that, and he's an NFL prospect at that point. So, I think he is somebody who is best suited for that nickel spot. Damari Brown, he's going to play one way or the other because the guy's big, physical, and he can run. So I'm really high on Damari Brown. I'm high on both these guys. I think you're going to see both these guys on the field a lot, which is number 2 and number 0, man. I think you're going to see both these guys on the field a lot. Strong guys, like to strike and tackle, explosive, look right, know what they're doing. Good camp for both of those guys. You King God asking, who's your choice? Which Notre Dame quarterback would you want Miami to play against? I mean, I haven't seen enough of these guys, right? I haven't seen a ton of CJ Clark. He hasn't played a lot. You can watch what's publicly available. There's not a ton, but then, there's not that much to go off. Minchie, the one thing about him is he can run. And if you look at what Notre Dame did last year with Riley Leonard, they ran the ball. The offensive coordinator, Denbrook from LSU, he had Jaden Daniels. He likes to run with his quarterbacks. So part of me says I'd rather have Carr because Carr doesn't run like Minchie. Not that Minchie's like Cam Newton, but Minchie will run, and that fits again with what Notre Dame has liked to do with their quarterbacks, at least what this coordinators like to do, and what they did last year with Riley Leonard. So part of me says I'd rather get the guy that doesn't run. Also, I think Minchie's thrown 3 passes. This guy's thrown 0, so Minchie's got 3 passes more of experience. I don't know, man. It's hard to say without seeing him. I think the fact that you're still having a quarterback battle, though, this late into camp means the reps are being split, which is good for competition. It's bad for the first quarterback getting more reps because whoever it is going to only have half the reps, and no one's pulling away. So I think it's good news that they're still fighting it out. For a Miami fan, first game going to be super loud. Blaine Fernandez asking, how different do you think the offense will be under Beck than with Cam last year? Biggest difference, I think it's going to be both very good offenses. Cam last year's offense was number 1 in the country by a mile, like not even close. Look at the stats, like levels above the number 2 team. Hard to repeat that. Cam Moore was a number 1 overall pick. Hard to repeat that. So the odds are against repeating that. That's just being honest. But I think we could be a top 10, top 15 type offense. Yes. Top 5 type offense, possibly. Yeah. Number 1, it could happen too. I'm not saying it can't. Could Beck be number 1 overall pick? He was projected last year to be that, and he's healthy. Could he be a first round pick? Absolutely. I think that's very possible. I'd almost bet on it based on how he's played so far. How they'd be different, I would say, and I said that kind of got this earlier. Ward held the ball a lot. Now, sometimes guys hold the ball because they don't read the defense or they're scared or they just are not, it's not clicking mentally. Ward is not like that. His intangibles are elite and his ability to read the defense is elite. Beck, you hear the same thing about him. That's a strength of his football IQ. So I think both of them read defenses very quickly, and I think they both have extremely quick releases. However, Ward holds onto the ball a lot. Ward had the longest time from when the ball snapped to when the ball is thrown of any player in the country, both because he had great protection, both because he could extend plays, and also that was just kind of how he played. So with Ward, you're going to see more holding the ball, bigger plays, and then he, like I said earlier, he has the ability to break a tackle, to make someone miss, and then extend laterally, and then throw crazy balls all over the field where his angles are different than other quarterbacks. As he's a former point guard, he can kind of see little angles. Beck is going to be more linear. He's not going to be trying to break a lot of tackles and go sideways. That's not his game. He's not going to be throwing across his body. But in terms of reading the defense, I think he's just as quick as Ward, and I think he's got just as quick a release as Ward. He's got a really quick release, and Ward had a quick release. Maybe not as like fluid with the arm angles, but very quick with Beck and clean. I think Beck will throw it quicker. Like he'll just, if there's a check down that's the right play, he'll get it out quick. If it's a deep ball, he'll get it out quick. He's going to get rid of it faster because that's just his style of play. I think that'll be the biggest difference between the offense this year and last year. I think they're going to be good both ways. Run the ball, offensive line, that's all going to be good. I think Beck's going to be really good. But I think he's just different in how often he holds onto the ball. I think you'll see Beck get sacked less this year. We were 31st in sack percentage with Ward. I think we were like 15th with TBD. And the real difference is not that obviously TVD is not more athletic than Ward, better at eluding rushers. He's not better at reading defenses. I just think because Ward held it so long, that led to some coverage sacks. He also avoided sacks too, but it was just a different style of play. Obviously, with Ward, you're the number one offense in the country by far. He was the number one pick. His efficiency was off the charts because he would throw downfield and complete it and not turn it over that much. So hard to replace those kind of guys, hard to replace the number one offense. I think will be pretty good this year, and I think that will be a key distinction when you watch those guys. All right, everybody, remember to like and subscribe to the show. A little quick one here this afternoon. I'm going to do a Canes Connection call right now, give you a little more specifics if you're a Canes Connection member. Stuff I can't say in public with Knowles and Gators and Notre Damers in the chat. We'll talk a little bit more specifically in that Canes Connection Zoom right now. And then practice. I'll be absorbing that, man. Hopefully everybody stays healthy. Everybody makes plays and has fun, man. It's a fun time to be watching football, man. Guys competing, guys really, really working hard and getting better. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. So appreciate everybody joining us in the chat. Like and subscribe. Go Canes.